Stage. So we had the bottle on stage. It was on stage, and we were all talking about it because someone had peed in this bottle and thrown it on stage, and we were all saying, "Wow, look at this! Someone peed in this bottle and threw it on stage, and it was sitting there on stage." And at one point in the set, Mike Patton took the bottle, went up, stood on Axel's monitor, unscrewed the cap, and poured it over his entire head.
The whole audience
drenched himself with urine.
Dumbfounded.
Old friend thing, sort of.
Absolutely not. I'm happy to see Metallica and all. They're a bunch of good guys. A lot of fun.
But having problems with Guns N' Roses?
No, there are no problems at all. Being treated quite well, actually.
Yeah, everything going good so far in the first part of the tour.
Yeah, everything went great.
Have you ever been on a stadium tour before?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. This last tour we did with Guns N' Roses was a European stadium tour. We did part of a stadium tour with Metallica as well. We did Billy Idol, Robert Plant. We're old hands at this, man.
Hey everybody, what's going on, and welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. And today I want to talk about a topic I've been meaning to cover for a long time, and that is why Faith No More hated opening for Guns N' Roses, and why they hated the whole spectacle and the circus of the Use Your Illusion tour. In fact, the band at some points was trying to undermine the whole thing, even though they were on the bill. Now, what's really ironic about this whole thing is that Guns N' Roses were huge fans of Mike Patton's 1989 debut record with Faith No More, The Real Thing.
Chose the support bands.
We did.
Do you like their music?
Yeah.
Can you say about them something?
Well, Faith No More is a band that we got turned on to a while back when their first record, not their first record, their third record came out, and we loved it. So that was one.
So something that Faith No More's record company were quick in utilizing to boost album sales in huge billboard posters that were pasted onto walls all over Europe, featuring grammatically inaccurate slogans saying Slash says Faith No More is effing brilliant. Unfortunately, Faith No More themselves didn't really share their record company's enthusiasm and spoke about the campaign poster to Rolling Stone in 1990. So Mike Borden said, "It's like, can Axel loan me $20? I mean, it's cool that those people gave quotes to help us out, but it doesn't really change your life." Bill Gold said they basically made up these posters in Europe. It was so embarrassing, man. And Mike Patton said that's the worst. When you drive into town and see that poster and you're in your effed up van, you just want to get out and rip it down. So 2 years later, Guns N' Roses hit the road with the Use Your Illusion tour, and Axl personally invited Faith No More and Soundgarden to be part of the extravaganza. Now, not for tactical reasons, but just simply because those were some of his favorite bands. And opinion was divided on whether or not to add Faith No More was a good idea. Members of the band had reservations. However, it was an opportunity to promote their new album, Angel Dust, on a huge scale that had never been seen before. So Bill Gold said, "It's effing amazing that we even got on this tour. One of the biggest tours in the world. I don't know. I mean, aesthetically we're different. I think it's good though. I've got to give Guns N' Roses credit and give Metallica credit too. Right now it's really responsible of them to pick bands that are different, and they didn't really have to do that. They could pretty much tour with anybody." So it would seem that not only was Faith No More's intention to make a buck, but also to undermine the greatest tour on earth from the outset. So as a unit and as individuals, Faith No More have always been imaginative, and they've always had a weird sense of humor, and they were no strangers to publicly berating fellow musicians, which is more often than not landed Mike Patton in trouble. So Lenny Kravitz, Sinead O'Connor, Poison, and Aerosmith were all previously on receiving end of Patton's wicked tongue, and in 1992, the new sport of axle bashing became something that the press would focus on during interviews, and the Faith No More guys would hold nothing back and be brutally honest and share some cheeky creativity as well. So Mike Patton would start things by saying in an interview, basically, "We are a small band. We are the pubic hair in Guns N' Roses shower." So even before the band packed their bags to start opening for Guns N' Roses, the taunts began in May of 1992. So Faith No More had played a show at the Marquee in London, the same venue Guns N' Roses had played about 5 years prior. And he basically told the 500-strong crowd that they should not even bother attending the Wembley Stadium show and instead ring in bomb threats. So Bill Gold in 1992 said, "We haven't really experienced anything like that. This is our first time going out on the road with a band like that, and we did do the Billy Idol tour, and we were a little bit uncomfortable with that. It'll be interesting to see exactly how many bodyguards Axl has. I want the inside story. More than anything, it's just something to poke fun at. Not to say that's what we're going to do, but..." And even Roddy Bottum said, "The big shows and a lot of people, sorrow and agony, soap opera acting, I've never heard them tell you the truth." Now, pretty much as soon as Faith No More hit the road with Guns N' Roses, venom was split onto the pages of countless music publications under headlines such as "Making Friends with the Devil," "A Really Ugly Experience," and "Touring Hell." So spurred on by the exposure of the offstage antics of Axl and company, disgusted and irate members of Faith No More felt the need to unburden themselves to the press, and also during their stage performances. So Jim Martin also seemed to enjoy the spoils that touring with such rock monsters would provide, and his actions would widen the rift between himself and the other 4 members of Faith No More. So Mike Patton provided some reasoning as to why they were hurling insults at Guns N' Roses in 1992. He said, "I always feel the need to provoke, especially if we're supporting some band like Guns N' Roses, and people aren't really listening. By insulting them, you make them at least look. It's the lowest common denominator, and when I do flips, I always land correctly. I only bruise myself. But I do have an ongoing fight with glass, which I keep losing. Once my arms were flailing and I cut 4 tendons in the main nerve in my right hand, it's practically numb now." Now, Bill Gold also went on to say, "It's difficult playing every night to people who aren't really interested in us. Maybe some of them do hate us, but that's cool. If they didn't hate us a bit, then we feel like we were kissing ass." Now, Faith No More also received their first spanking from Axl, or at least his camp, after Mike Patton encouraged the crowd to throw beer at Jim Martin one too many times, and the temperamental singer was worried about getting his feet wet. Now, when you have a band like Faith No More opening for a band like Guns N' Roses, it wasn't always the case that the opening band would actually be on the same tour bus or the same private jet as the headlining act. In fact, on this tour, Faith No More would travel thousands of miles on a bus, while Guns N' Roses chartered private planes to get them to the next show. And Faith No More would be on stage at prompt 6 p.m. for their 45-minute set, while GNR would show up late and be ferried around in limos backstage. They were also used to relentless touring schedules of 6 shows a week, or on this tour they'd be so lucky to perform twice a week. And this led to Faith No More finding new ways to fill their time and alleviate the boredom. And sometimes Faith No More would give the press a little insight into how things worked with GNR's camp. So one of their members, Billy Gold, gave an interview where he said GNR and their management are like a small government. Axl's the president and his manager is a personal advisor. A couple of the other more visible band members are vice presidents. Then there's the little guys who come underneath to make sure that only the right information is leaked out. They're dependent on the band for their living, so they will police themselves. Support bands are like the other countries with whom they have to maintain a diplomatic front. Like, keep your mouth shut, enjoy the ride, and everything will be cool. Open your mouth and jeopardize your own position. It's an interesting thing to experience firsthand. Now, one of the biggest issues that Faith No More had with Guns N' Roses was just basically some of the lyrics the band had in their songs and how they ended up treating some of the local population when it came to showtime. So Roddy Bottum gave another interview in '92 where he said, knowing their beliefs and the sexist, racist, homophobic things they've said in the press, the fact that they were touring with us, a band basically with somebody gay, is kind of tickled me. But the talk of crass sexism, the actual experience was disgusting. On the road, the band would send their video crew out to roam around in the audience during intermissions, and they'd corner pretty girls in the audience, and everyone would scream and yell at her until she lifted up her blouse and showed her tits. If she refused, the whole audience would boo her. It was awful, and it happened every night. And at each stop on the tour, before Guns N' Roses would come to town, they would have their crew arrive a day early and find the local club where they'd give strippers backstage passes. Every night, the whole scenario was like millions of stripper chicks just hanging out waiting to do one of the band or a roadie or whoever. And here's an interview with Slash that basically confirms what Roddy was saying.
Give me an example of some of the rules.
Well, we go on late.
Yeah, you go on late. What is that all about?
It's just because we're a club band, and we've never had to. We've always gone on like at 11 o'clock or midnight, and that's where we come from. So, as an opening band, you had to cater to the headlining band and go on their schedule. But once we were on our own schedules, like, we didn't really want to have to listen to the promoters per se. And we just thought it was cool to go on late at night because it was cooler,
And you don't get in trouble with the unions?
Oh, well, the unions don't care because they get paid at double time for it, so they're happy. The unions love us. But the promoters got pissed off, and some of the crowd, I think, was a little ticked off because they weren't used to it. They're used to bands going on at 9 o'clock.
In the Rolling Stone article that just came out about Axl, it kind of seemed like it was because of him that the shows went on so late. Is that okay with you? That feels okay?
It's, we just kick back in the dressing room and, like, we have these monitors, we have these cameras that shoot the crowd, so we watch different people in the crowd and stuff.
So if you're at a Guns N' Roses show and they're late, they're watching you. Yeah, you're on.
And so we kick back in the dressing room, have a couple drinks or whatever, and watch what's going on, and just basically get into the frame of mind where you want to go up and play for 3 hours. And it's like, it's not a job, so
it's an adventure.
I think we're coming from a whole different mentality than the business is, and so it did have its repercussions, and so we've sort of like tried to adapt try and find some middle ground,
Now, one of the biggest rumors or things we always heard on the Use Your Illusion tour was that Axl traveled around with a psychic on tour, and that really came from Faith No More. So they gave an interview where they said there was a rumor that Axl brought a psychic on tour with him, and it would be bad luck in any city that started with the letter M. So he canceled Manchester, Madrid, Munich, and he did Montreal, and that's when the riot happened. So what was the article that Faith No More did in the press that caused a lot of outrage by Axl and the Guns N' Roses camp? So they gave an interview to Melody Maker. It came out in August of '92, and it said some really disparaging things about Guns N' Roses. In fact, there was little blurbs that they had with sections that talked about the certain interview topics, and one of them was that Axl's going bald. So one of the band members said, he really is. They told the story of how Guns N' Roses were playing one night, and Duff walks up to Axl and pats him on the head like a loving comrade type thing, and Axl Rose immediately brings the show to a halt, and this is in front of 80,000 people, and he basically screams, "Don't ever touch my head again, mother effer," and Duff just walked away wounded. We found out later that it was because he was going bald, and he's worried that if you touch his hair, it will fall out. Every follicle counts. He came up to me the other night and said, "Hey man, your song really helped me through some really heavy shit in my life." I said, "Really?" I asked, "What song is that?" He said, "Midlife Crisis." "What kind of shit?" I asked. He looked at the ground for about an hour and then shook his head and said, "Just a lot of shit, man. I tell you, I was biting my lips so hard trying not to lose it. We've given up trying to be quiet about their stupid games. It's got to come out somewhere. And for a while we were a little cautious of saying anything, but we were uncomfortable with that. Did you want to know about the Warren Beatty thing?" So they go on to say that at the last show of the European tour, Axl's psychic, who has her own bodyguard, went out and blessed his microphone and blessed the stage. So it was this story that earned Faith No More their second roasting and almost cost them their place on the tour. And this time it was serious enough to warrant Axl himself to reprimand the band, who didn't take kindly to being described as follically challenged. So Roddy Bottum said in 1993 that halfway through the tour, we realized it wasn't the kind of scene we wanted to be involved with. We'd been talking shit in the press about Axl, and he got wind of it. So one night we had to stick around and have a meeting with him after the concert. He was really upset and talked to us for an hour. At the end of it, one of his people came into Axl's trailer and said, "Axl, come on, I want to show you something." So Axl gets up all serious and says, "Come on, we'd just been raked over the coals and felt obliged to play along." So we all had to follow. We went into this other trailer and it was filled with these guys, but dead silent, and no one saying a thing. Everyone was looking at something going on in the back. We're following Axl like idiots, but as soon as we get closer, we see what everyone's looking at. It was two women having sex with one another. Now, Bill Gold did confirm that things did seem to end amicably with the bands. So he said he read all the bad press we said about him and asked us about it. We actually talked to him for a while, and you know what? He was pretty cool. One day we came to the concert and Axl was there waiting for us. "What's the deal?" And he just said we tried to stir up as much trouble as we could. We told him we felt like it was our job, and he just laughed. He just sat and explained his position to us a little bit, and he's an easy guy to take pot shots at, and we definitely went for the easy thing. He was cool about it, and he likes to see the system shook up as much as anyone, but he's in an awkward position. We left the tour friendly, and it was like making friends with the devil. I thought all hell was going to come down, and he let us off with a, "All right, you effing idiots." And that was a cool response. Most people in his position would have been real uptight dicks, and I could think of 100 other bands we've done a lot less to that have freaked out about 10 times as bad. So even in Slash's autobiography from 2007, he too was present for that reprimanding that Axl gave the band. He said, "We had as much antagonistic situation on our hands with our support band Faith No More once their frontman Mike Patton started talking shit about us on stage. We let it go once, twice, but after that was it. We had to have a talk with him. Axl came in with me, as did their guitarist Jim Martin, because Jim was fed up with Mike as we were. Listen, man," I said, "if you don't like it here, just effing leave. It can't be like this. Either let's do this thing and make it great, or forget it and go home." They ended up finishing the tour, and that was the last outburst we heard from Mike during their set. So that does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and go check us out at gnrcentral.com for the latest Guns N' Roses news. Take care.
Hey, this is Dizzy Reed from Guns N' Roses, and you're watching...